problem with Destiny is that it's become a victim of its own hype. It's just simply not as good, not as groundbreaking, and not as revolutionary as what all the marketing bollocks was making out. It's exactly the same problem that Watch Dogs experienced upon its release. Yes, there is a story in there, somewhere, but I'll be buggered if I can make sense of it. Games like Half-Life and Bioshock showed that it is possible to have an engaging storyline within a first-person shooter. Bungie themselves are capable of doing this, as the Halo series had a decent story going throughout its original trilogy. But it seems that Bungie's decision to hop into bed with Activision has resulted in some of the same problems that befall Call of Duty every sodding year, in which it's never mind the plot, look at the Michael Bay explosions. During the intro for Destiny, some alien thing called the Traveller came to Earth to, I don't know, sleep on the settee for a couple of weeks till it got itself sorted out, or something. And in the meantime, it accelerated the human race into a space-exploring golden age. Until, of course, the Traveller's rowdy mate started looking for him and ended up kicking off a bit of the old cosmic warfare type thing. And this is where you come in. After deciding which type of faceless Master Chief clone you're going to look like, your character wakes up to find that the Earth has been well and truly fucked over, which may or may not end up being the plot for The Hangover Part 4. The first thing you come across is a floating Rubik's Cube, with the voice of Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones, who sounds like he really couldn't be arsed with this. The first thing that the monotone short arse tells you is that you've been dead for a long time and must have many questions. Yes, we do. Such as, why did you wake me up in the first place? And why does your voice sound like a suicidal sat-nav? But of course, we never get around to having any of our questions answered, or even acknowledged, because we've got to go and find us a spaceship so that we can look at some more pretty scenery. Yes, there is a story in there somewhere. Some of the other characters will merely tease you with this, stating, I could tell you about the Great Wars. I could tell you about the tales of bravery and sacrifice. Yes, they could, but they bloody don't, do they? It's a game that wants to take a welding torch and stick Halo right next to World of Warcraft, as you wander around different terrain, some of which you'll need to keep coming back to over and over again, whilst other players are running about trying to get you to join their dance troupe, or something. A lot of the marketing for the game has been that you make your own adventures, you create your own experiences by interacting with other players. Well, that's lovely, but what if I wanted to play this game with somebody who's in the same room as me? Ah, no, well you can't do that. Well, for God's sake, if the Halo games allowed you to do the main campaign in a split-screen 2-player mode, then why the hell can't Destiny do the same? And the thing is that the game wants you to go and do the whole multiplayer thing before you can advance enough to tackle some of its other levels. Otherwise you find yourself going back to the same place you've been to already to shoot the same baddies in the face that you've already shot in the face earlier. Keep doing that until the game tells you can do something else, you scum! And who are the baddies exactly? Well, they're a group of hostile alien types that are collectively known as the Darkness. Now this makes me think of two other things. Either another first-person shooter on the Xbox 360 called The Darkness, or the band called The Darkness, who seem to think that screaming, I believe in a thing called love, is a good substitute for actual singing talent. Individually, the numerous different alien races that form the Darkness have all been named after random words apparently chosen from the dictionary that the developers must have thought sounded cool. We've got the Fallen, the Hive, the Cabal, the Beatles, the Who, the Cunnyfuckers, and a few others that I may or may not have made up on the spot. What? What are they? These aliens are usually of the insectoid, humanoid or reptilianoid variety, with different variations of size and snazzy looking armour, with the boss type characters being the biggest and the most blinged out of their races. Mostly it's just growling nasty types that want to shoot your face off before you can do the same to them. Well, hang on a minute. Didn't you say that Bungie made this game? The same guys that did the original Halo trilogy? Well, at least the Halo games had some sort of variety with their enemy types. Some of them humanoid and some of them were those little squawky buggers. But where's the variety here in Destiny? Generally, the combat is doing its job, I suppose. I'd take out the blokies far away from him with a couple of sniper rifle headshots, and then watch the rest of them sliding in and out of cover like cardboard ducks on a shooting gallery before stabbing the odd one or two that was stupid enough to get too close to me. Compared to the likes of the Bioshocks, the Half-Lives and even the Halos of this world, no amount of pretty scenery can distract or change the fact that this game gets very boring very quickly. There is the option to be competitive against other players online if you aren't the cooperative type and would rather spend your evenings shooting whinging American kids who aren't old enough to play this game, but even that's lacking something. Where's the inventiveness and the playful nature of the multiplayer modes that we had in the Halo games? The loading times are numerous and they're a right old pain in the arse as well. You need to constantly travel back and forth to the main world hub in order to hand in your completed quests and items before you can move on to something else. The game briefly becomes a little more interesting when the plot determines, okay, now we're going to go to a different planet for a bit, but the new scenery quickly loses its appeal when you realise you've got more of the same to do here as what you did on the last planet you visited. Destiny was supposed to be the next big thing. It isn't, not by a long shot. Between them, Bungie and Activision have created themselves a decent first-person shooter. Well, it would be a first-person shooter, wouldn't it? You've got the Halo guys hopping into bed with the Call of Duty guys. They're not exactly going to make a platform game between them, are they? Considering the number of years this game has been in development and the amount of money that's been spent on making the game, you would have thought that something new, fresh, exciting, challenging and thought-provoking would have been the end result. It isn't. This game is not a disaster, don't get me wrong, but the expectations have been built up to the point that the end result is just a big disappointment. By all means, go out and play the game. Just wait until the prices come down a fair old bit. And don't ever, ever believe in the hype machine ever again. To be honest, at this rate, it's going to be difficult in judging whether Watch Dogs or Destiny was the most overrated, overhyped game of the year.